Hey everybody, welcome back for another sublimation tutorial. Today we're going to look at how we make peekaboo shirts. Peekaboo shirts are where they have the slits in the front and an image shows through those little slits, hence the term peekaboo shirt. So we're going to go ahead and show you the steps on how to do that. You're going to want to have your shirt laying flat with some type of cutting board on the inside of it. When you're cutting the slits, that way it's not going to cut the back side of your shirt because you only want the cuts on the front. I like to measure my little cuts on just a little piece of construction paper, just like this. My lines or my cuts will be 1 inch apart all the way down to the bottom. I'll skip this line here, just go to the bottom line. You'll just kind of want to eyeball it, line it up, or if you're really OCD, you can fold the shirt in half, press it and get that seamed line, and then fold your paper and do the same thing and line it up that way. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to go ahead and eyeball it for us today. And we're going to go from this line here starting. This is going to be kind of your guide of where, so if you want it from 1 inch from the neckline, you'll do it like that. So we'll start with this line here, and that looks pretty good to me. So once you have your piece of paper in place where you want your lines to be, I like to go ahead and tape mine down so that it's not moving as we're cutting it. I just use painter's tape. I use it for a lot of things actually. But whatever works for you, you can just use regular painter's tape as well. All right, so for this part, you can either use scissors, it's a little bit more difficult, or you can use a little pizza wheel and just cut the lines. I find that to be the most easiest way for me. So we'll go ahead and start cutting our lines. Okay, so you have all your lines cut there now. You can go ahead and remove the piece of paper. All right, so you'll notice that now all of your little peekaboo slots have been cut, and you should have them pretty even. In the end, if it's not long enough for you, cutting wise, you can stretch them out and make them longer, but I like to do that at the end once I know where my image is and how it looks when it's laying. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and show you how to sublimate your image onto the fabric that will go onto the inside. All right, so the next part is sublimating your image onto your fabric that's going to go onto the inside of your shirt. With that, you're just going to cut out a size of polyester fabric that's going to be just a little bit wider than the window that you just cut those slits in. That way you're going to have a border that you're going to adhere to the inside of the shirt, and we'll go over that later. So for now, what you want to do is make sure you have all your particles off your shirt, dog hair, dust, anything like that, because it will show up or change color and just make the image look different. I also just use a piece of tape. Honestly, I use painter's tape for, like I said, most things, and it just does just as well. Okay, so we got that done. You'll go ahead and iron out your piece of fabric, that way it's flat and heated. And then, yes, as always, I have my little heat press, my Cricut heat press. It's also set at 400 degrees for 60 seconds, and that's what I'm gonna press my image for. If you have a larger press, you'll be able to do this in one go, but I'm gonna do mine in sections just because it is smaller. Before you press, you do want to put parchment paper down. If you don't, you're going to have ink transferring to like your mat or your press, whatever. So just have that down. You'll put your image face downwards, centering it. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and make sure that we tape our image down so that way it's not moving in the process. You can use you can use heat resistant tape or painter's tape, whichever works for you. Honestly, you're gonna find things that work better for you and things that don't. It's totally a preference, is what I have found. All right, now you'll cover up your top layer with parchment paper. And then you'll go ahead and do your press. All right, so we are finished doing that. You can go ahead and remove your parchment paper and untape your image. Please always at this point be very careful. It is really hot. You can use heat resistant gloves, which is probably a good idea. I don't, it's just how I am. But again, please just be careful with yourself. All right, so we'll remove our image. And that's what we have as far as what the Peekaboo image will be underneath. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next step, where we will add the adhesive that will also adhere to the inner of the shirt as well. All right, so at this point here, we're gonna go ahead and tack our outer borders with adhesive. It's double-sided adhesive that's going to tack to this side and then the inside of your shirt to connect the two pieces of fabric. This is the adhesive that I use. It's just from Walmart, the UltraHold. It comes in thicker strips, whatever works best for you or your needs. You'll notice there's a rough side on the bottom and a smooth side on top. The rough side will go down, and once you heat it, you'll peel the top layer off, and then there will be a stickier side exposed, which will adhere to the inside of your shirt. So we'll go ahead and do our measures. All right, so we got those cut. You'll use your press or your mini press or iron, whatever works best for you. I have lowered my temperature down to 300. It's not quite there, but it's close. You'll do it for 2 seconds, pressing the adhesive the first time, and then the second time when you're pressing into your shirt, you'll do 8 seconds. So we'll go ahead and get these on there. All right, so at this point you have the adhesive on your fabric. It does take a few minutes to cool off, and once it has, we'll move to the next step of getting this adhered to the inside of your t-shirt. All right, so from here we have our t-shirt flipped inside out with the heat resistant mat on the inside and our little cut square right centered in it. We're now going to take the image that we just made on the other fabric and we're going to center it over the top of your cuts. All right, so from here, we're gonna heat the adhesive that we had just put around the borders. On this part, I'm gonna put parchment paper back over because we don't wanna keep reactivating the sublimation ink. And I did also lower the temperature on my press. It's not quite there, but I did lower it to 300 from what I had at 400. And the same thing, you'll just go around these lines and heat up the adhesive so that it adheres to the fabric. Okay, so from this point, we are gonna let our design cool off. If you notice any spots that are still kind of lifted, just go back over and repress it. Just like so. All right, so it does take a few minutes to cool off. I'll go ahead and let that do its cooling and then we'll come back to see what the finished product looks like. All right, so I've gone ahead and flipped the shirt back to the right side out. You'll see now that we are adhered, it's stuck in there. You can't move it. So that's how that's gonna look. At this point, like I had mentioned earlier, you can stretch these out. to make them look a little bit longer. I do kind of like the way it looks here, but if you'd like, just kind of gently stretch them and it'll give that more open look. I'm not gonna do it too much because I generally like how it looks. And you can really see how it peeks through. It's really cute. The colors are really vibrant showing through. It's just a really fun shirt to make. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and boop that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share for others so they can get helped as well. Have a wonderful day and happy crafting.